Do you know how angry the Thames Water thing makes me? The injustice. Not just because this whole thing has happened because of people lining their pockets, because of corporate greed, because of people paying dividends despite the fact that the company is not functioning, but also that this is about water. Water. Something that we all need literally every day to stay alive. Something that people shouldn't be able to make profit out of in the first place. What makes this even more amazing is not only have they run the company into the ground, not only are they dumping sewage into our rivers and watery spaces at record rates, not only do they want to continue paying their shareholders and investors dividends and continue lining their pockets, but they also want us to foot the bill, want to up our bills to pay for all of this nonsense, or something that we literally need to survive. Are you what? That doesn't boil your piss. I do not know what will. For anybody that doesn't know the situation, Thames Water is a major water utility in the UK. They are in financial disaster. They've racked up debts of over £15 billion over the last few years, whilst also paying out massive dividends to their shareholders, obviously. Whilst also dumping loads of sewage into the Thames. There's been a 105% rise in sewage dumps. Some people are saying that it needs to be declared an environmental emergency. And it's amazing because Thames Water was responsible for the biggest increase in the number of those discharges. Dumping on 16,990 occasions, 112% increase on 2022. I wouldn't be swimming in our rivers. Why should we expect the bare minimum from these companies? Why should we? All these people care about is money. I despair. And I'm not a politician, I don't know the answers. I'm just so sick of seeing stories like this in every sector in this country. And countries across the world. The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, and nothing functioning because all people care about is lining their own pockets.
Well, as they said in that famous American Hollywood 80s film, Wall Street, greed is good. Looks like CEOs in the UK took it literally.
Thames Water has paid out over £10 billion in dividends, racked up £19 billion in debt, and built exactly 0 new reservoirs. Meanwhile, raw sewage is being pumped into our rivers. The CEO gets paid £2.3 million a year, and we get hosepipe bans. This isn't a public service, it's a scam.
Hi everyone, I'm standing on Dyke Road outside the co-op, and what you see behind me won't be here for much longer. The co-op has made a decision to evict both Latina Cafe and us, Seven Cellars, in order to expand their supermarket. After years of serving the local community, we're both being forced to close our doors, effectively making 2 local independent businesses homeless. If you care about local community, local business and keeping Brighton vibrant, please share this story. Let the co-op know that this matters. We love our neighbourhood and we would love to stay. We love our customers and we believe that there's room for everybody, independents and supermarkets.
So the most embarrassing thing just happened to me. I got paid on the 25th, it's now the 1st, and I'm completely overdrawn. And we needed food shopping. So I've just been walking around Aldi with my phone calculator out, calculating how much everything cost just to feed my family because I only had £35. That was completely soul destroying and exhausting. And all I want to do now is just burst into tears. It really shouldn't be this hard to feed your family as a full-time working mum. We are a full-time 2-parent working household and we are still barely scraping by. Why is it that working parents can be working full-time, doing our fucking best, and we still don't have enough? We still don't have enough. And this is exactly why I am learning how to make money online. Because I just can't live like this anymore. Don't need extra money for holidays or luxuries.
Bills out of control, and they know it, but don't care.
We have all faced huge increases in the cost of living. The price of food, energy and services have skyrocketed over recent years, making it hard for people to keep up. Why has this happened? Companies suggest it is demand for fair wages that have driven costs up. They say that prices rose in response to the conflict in Ukraine, recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, and new trade barriers. But billions are being funneled into industry profits. Suppose a supermarket's costs for a bottle of cooking oil go up 50p. They could absorb that rise. They could raise the price 50p to pass on those costs. Or raise prices even further to boost profits. That is profiteering, and it's happening right across our broken economy. And nowhere is the impact of profiteering more obvious than in our shopping baskets. As the prices we pay rose, so did the profits of the big three supermarkets. This results in the situation where a few are laughing all the way to the bank, whilst millions are worrying all the way to the food bank. The money is there for the public services people need, and fair pay rises workers deserve, so they can afford to feed their families. Which begs the question, who ate all the pie?
Just come out of Pizza Hut, and for 2 people to eat, so I'm eating with my little girl, took her out for a date night, £30 for 1 pizza. I used to work at Pizza Hut. I used to work at Pizza Hut.
Oh, are you videoing?
Me. I used to work at Pizza Hut. I know it costs £1.50 to make a pizza. Pizza Hut is charging £30 for the same pizza. That's extortion. It's taking the mick. There's no wonder that that restaurant is completely empty. It's got 1 car in front of it. Pizza Hut, wake up, work out that families can't afford £30 for a pizza. Even Domino's doesn't charge that price. Ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. The staff in there, lovely, wonderful people. I said I'm going to give them huge compliments. I'm going to write a review because they were wonderful. Even they said it's ridiculous. £30 for 1 pizza. Tell me that's a good price. Tell me now that's a good price.
Every food company employs psychologists and chemists in the food industry. Why do they do that? I'll tell you. Because they're putting additives in the food to make it. They've used psychologists to understand how people get hooked on things. And the chemists work out what to put in as food additives to make them basically addictive. And that, of course, makes things more sellable, and it makes people more unhealthy. So, yeah, it is about time that we stand up as a nation, as a people, and start fighting back. And that just goes to the heart of everything I say.
Have this idea that the reason we have inflation is that everyone is just being paid so much money and it's just this amazing time for poor working class people who are on high salaries. Of course, that's absurd. We actually know now from economic studies that what's driving inflation is corporate profits. It's profiteering from energy companies, from big monopolistic organizations that are putting up prices because they can, basically, because they have a stranglehold over their markets, and they're able to do that. It's not workers driving inflation. You can easily give nurses, give doctors a pay rise and then say we're going to do a bigger windfall tax on the energy companies or tax profits that have gone up over the course of the cost of living crisis and actually keep inflation low.
Why has the grocery bill here in the UK skyrocketed just lately? Is it due to the grocery tax on some products, which are items? I'll give you an example here, right? Now this one, £1.75. And the date on here is the 25th of the 5th, 25. Right, so that is the 25th of May. Now then, this one, £1.99. And the date on this one is 22nd of the 6th, 25. So virtually between these 2 packets, there's a month, right? But the increase is over 13.5%. That's just on one item, an increase of 13.5% or over 13.5%. And the pensioners, they got 4.1%. So there's something not quite right. But because of the packaging on this, it could be all to do with the grocery tax, which is a levy put on certain items to try and keep us down to get down to net zero.
I suppose what do we expect with all the guide rails and protections being stripped away? Watchdogs stripped of any real teeth, so we are exposed to price gouging and predation. The younger generation coming up are getting clobbered. I know, it's just unfair and despicable. It's all disgusting and immoral, in my opinion. People on fixed incomes, like myself, are getting eaten alive with all this on top of all the crazy inflation.
just thought I'd jump on here because I just want to get people's opinions, and basically it's probably not going to even reach them, but just to tell Sports Direct that they're actually liberty takers. I've just gone into Sports Direct. I'm a parent of 4, so it's expensive enough raising children, especially in the current economy. The amount they eat alone, all the activities that they do, you know, it's expensive. I've gone into Sports Direct because it's cold and my son needs some more base layer stuff. Is it called base layer? Clothes to go underneath his football kits for when he's training and stuff at the weekend and when he's playing football. I've gone in there and their clothes size only go up to a size 12. Now I'm pretty sure they're not voting at the age of 12 and running around smoking and drinking, because they're not classed as an adult until they're 16. And when I asked the manager, he said to me that the manufacturers, they don't make children's clothes past age 12. My response was, so that's a bit funny, because if I go into JD, they do it up to age 15, well, 15 to 16. Same with Foot Locker or Primark or H&M or any other clothes store that I've been in. And he just said to me, no, it's the manufacturers, it's just the way it is, so you have to get a small man's. I'm like, but then I'm paying VAT for a child. I'm not supposed to pay VAT on child's clothes. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but I actually think it's a liberty. They're children. Why should I have to pay for adults' clothes and buy them adults' clothes for children? They should... Everybody knows the size of a child until they're 16. My kids get measured every year and have to do some kind of local BMI thing where they tell me whether my kid's fat or skinny or overweight and too tall or too short. So it's not like the UK doesn't know the size of a child. So why are they not making children's clothes for Sports Direct? Because I just went to look at the base. Obviously, I've gone to the adult section to look for the base layer stuff in the adult section, and they want £75 for a top and bottoms. I'm half tempted to go Primark and get him some women's gym wear. Put that on him instead. Obviously, I'm not going to, because, you know, he'd kill me. But I think it's an absolute piss take. As if they're not greedy enough. As if they don't earn enough money and pay hardly any tax and any VAT and any corporate tax in this country. They're doing shit like this. I think it's disgraceful.
More than £600 million worth of support for Ukraine, including aid to meet immediate humanitarian, energy and stabilisation needs. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Foreign Secretary David Lammy met President Zelensky in Kyiv today. Ukraine is urging both countries to allow them to use long-range, Western-supplied missiles against targets inside Russia.
Hey there, and welcome to the Eco Renegade, a no bullshit, no nonsense opinion of what's going on and maybe how we can improve it. So straight into it, the energy infrastructure of the UK also looks to be crumbling. We have a national grid that apparently cannot transport the electricity down from Scotland, from the windmills, that because of that have to be turned off when it's windy. But now, Centrica have turned around and said only a few days ago they were close to running out of supply. And we were really close to be told about blackouts. Can you get over this? Less than a week's supply, 5 or 6 days or something like that, and that's the gas to heat people's homes, especially the vulnerable, as well as gas that's used to produce electricity. What is going on, and how on earth does this actually happen? It seems to be a repeating theme, doesn't it? The water companies, the energy companies, take the money out, give it to the shareholders, pay themselves bonuses for doing a bad job, and guess what? Our government remains silent. Our government talks and talks on some things, but never the things that matter. And then the worst thing is, do they take action? Where is the energy minister of this government or the previous government turning around and saying a couple of weeks supply is not enough capacity? It's not in our security or national security interest to run out of power. But yet they don't seem to have done that. In Europe, they put together a plan to have at least 100 days. So what's going to happen now is Europe's thought ahead. They've got 100 days, more than 3 months supply. We're going to buy some energy from them last minute, just to top up, just in case, which is going to cost a fortune. And it's never the companies that pay for it, is it? It's always the customer. All of these failures are paid for by the people that didn't commit them. Where is our government saying, well, no, you're not allowed to reduce storage capacity because this is of national interest? We cannot run out of energy, and we've already closed the coal-fired stations, so why on earth would you allow the gas to get to this point? These are serious questions to be asked, but it also makes you wonder, are we living in the 21st century or are we living in the 1800s? Because whilst back then they would have had an excuse, today it would seem greed is the reason for it, and it should not be tolerated. The bills are already massively high compared to the rest of the world. How on earth do they think it's reasonable to actually increase that by buying gas at the last minute because of lack of planning and lack of storage? I'd love to hear what you think, because I do believe in sustainables, I do believe in renewables, but I would suggest perhaps connecting the wire from Scotland to England, a national grid that can handle it, before you close down the stuff that's actually running the country.
In France, for example, some supermarkets have started using their electronic shelf edge labelling for dynamic surge pricing. So the sun comes out, well, the price of a barbecue goes up and the store team don't have to do anything, but consumers get hit because of the good weather. Could you see a world in the future, or could you rule out a world where Tesco and Sainsbury's would use electronic labelling for surge demand pricing in your stores?
On behalf of Tesco, I can't speak on Sainsbury's. I can't imagine in the most competitive retail market, probably in Europe, that we would have. We don't currently engage in surge pricing at all. We'd have no plans to engage in surge pricing. We've got the most canny customers of any retail market in the world, and I think customers who thought that their barbecue products were going to cost them more because the sun had come out would quickly make their decision to shop elsewhere. So that's something I can categorically state we would not be looking at.
Ed?
Likewise, we don't do dynamic pricing or surge pricing. We've no plans to do it, and as the CMA described grocery retail customers, they are savvy, and if they will spot the difference quickly.
So these two packets of Weetabix probably look the same to you, but one was bought at a small Tesco store in Castle Bromwich, and it costs 10% more than the other packet, which was bought in a big superstore down in Quinton. Now, how can it be right that Tesco's is charging different prices for different communities? We don't think that kind of two-tier pricing can be right. And we called in Tesco's and Sainsbury's, who are just as bad, to answer some difficult questions today. It turns out that where you've got those smaller stores, which are often located in lower income communities, the prices we found were somewhere between 11 and 13% higher than if you had a car or you had transport that could get you to a superstore. We just don't think that's right. That could be hundreds of pounds extra on your bill. And we think that both supermarkets are big enough to be able to do something about it. The profits at Sainsbury's is getting on for £1 billion. Tesco's, the profit is getting on to about £2.8 billion. And of course, both companies, like lots of supermarkets, say that their big mission is honest and fair pricing. So we heard from the Competition and Market Authority, which is supposed to police this, that frankly the powers that they need to police this kind of action simply aren't there. So we will be looking harder at what the supermarkets are up to, what airlines are up to, what companies like Ticketmaster are up to, and making recommendations to government about how they strengthen the law, but also crucially improve the enforcement against bad actors who are frankly fleecing consumers who need food, want to take a flight, or perhaps even have some fun. So,
as you're well aware, the new energy price cap rates came in Tuesday of this week. Electricity prices, gas and electricity rising by 10% in England, Scotland and Wales. People's bills are going up. My understanding is that as you were trying to become an administration, in what you were outlining, you said you were going to bring people's bills down.
Yeah, and you know why bills went up, Charlie, on October the 1st? Because we're in the grip of international gas markets controlled by petrostates and dictators. And when geopolitical instability happens, gas markets react, and there's nothing we can do as a government, but there is something we can do. And that's what this government was elected to do, which is to drive to clean, homegrown energy we control. That's why we've overturned the onshore wind ban, consented more solar in less than 3 months than the last government did in 14 years, had the most successful renewable auction in history. We are in a hurry to get us energy independence, and this is all part of the government's plan. So if you take these two things together, we say we have renewable energy absolutely where we can. We're going to have the maximum renewable energy where we can, carbon capture where we can't. But the only way we get back control of our energy prices is with the clean energy superpower mission that this government was elected to deliver and is delivering.
When's my bill coming down?
Well, what we've said is that by 2030, bills will come down. But let me say this to you, Charlie. Every solar panel we put up, every wind turbine we construct, every piece of grid we construct, and that's controversial for some people, but this government believes we've got to do it. Every time we do that, we get back control of our energy. That's what it's all about. You see, the old argument for clean energy was just a climate change argument. The new argument is, yes, a climate change argument, but it's also an energy security argument. It's a control argument, because solar, wind, that's not controlled by what Putin does or what happens in the Middle East. That is controlled here at home.
Okay, everyone, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.